get too technical. You know, I'm using a lot of pictures and things, and it's done purposefully because when you present this to a family, to kids, it needs to be on a level that they can understand. You know, I'm not going to try to get into the sodium potassium pump with, you know, with 8th graders. But it's important that it's very important that they know this. Another case study. 17-year-old going to go into the armed forces, overdosed on alcohol, came from the CRC in Norman. It's their inpatient rehab. He spent a month there. He was drinking literally up to 1/5 of alcohol, you know, 80% alcohol, you know, 80 proof alcohol per day. And he said, well, that's kind of what my dad drinks. Well, this 17-year-old, he's a decent sized kid, but I even went into this with him. I said, do you realize what you're doing? And he wasn't trying to blow smoke at me. He just, you know, I went through, you know, some kids will come in and say, yeah, man, I drank like a 30-pack this weekend in like 5 hours. And you know, there are folks, especially in the teen years, where they glamorize. But this kiddo is legit. And so I showed him this, and his eyes, you know, got really big. He was a smart kid. He took that government placement test and was just, I can't remember, like 30. I mean, it's a really, really high score for his age. And so they really wanted to do some things with him in the Navy and promote him along. So anyway, but he just didn't recognize what alcohol, because nobody ever talked to him. You'd be surprised, people just don't know. So that's the benefit. And so for folks in the field, this question came up at drug court today. What do they give somebody in Oklahoma if you have ingested alcohol and you're driving?
Can you say that again, please?
Okay, so if you're driving a car in Oklahoma and you've ingested alcohol, what options do the police have or Highway Patrol have with charges?
You get ready to
DUI?
Absolutely. So, where does DUI happen on this chart? What's the legal level?
Blue. Oh, 0.8. Like, well,
It's actually at 0.8. That's the legal level. So there's also a second option though in Oklahoma, and I learned this is today. This is with the district attorney. This is with the district judge. There's a DW. I learned something today. So there's another option called DWI. And so you hinted at it, Lauren. What's the level for DWI? It is in blue. For DWI,
is it driving under the influence and driving while
intoxicated.
Right.
Intoxicated.
So they consider that at 0.05. So that's not very much. Most people get there, even heavier people, at 2 drinks. So you can face legal charges in Oklahoma with just very minimal amounts of alcohol in your system. The decision was made that they don't let people leave treatment or the drug court offices if somebody is 0.05, because somebody could actually get a public intox theoretically for that too. All right, switching gears. Which one has the most alcohol in it?
the shortest one, the littlest one right there on the end. The tequila one.
I got one vote here. I got other votes?
I agree with Lauren.
Got 2 votes here. Oh,
Because the other ones are mixed. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean the one that is most concentrated or least diluted will be the strongest one.
So I've got nice
That's
voting
for the
over
little
here as well.
60-foot shot there.
Okay. Now this is a trick question.
Is it? Oh.
It doesn't say percentage, so it's a trick question. So actually, they should all have.
Same.
They should all have equal amounts. Now they may not. You know, if you've got a 150 proof shot over here, versus, and I think this is based on an 80 proof shot. We'll get into what that means. You know, this would roughly have about. Nice, you hinted at it, and Lauren, everybody did. Sonia, you did too. If we're looking at these percentages for the amount of alcohol, you know, line being about 12%, so about 5% here outside of Oklahoma, in every state except for Oklahoma and Utah, beer is
What's your-
5%.
Your
And
screwdriver.
this is about 20% or so. So that's breaking down roughly the alcohol percentages in those drinks, but they should have roughly an ounce and a half of alcohol in them. So yeah, it's a trick question. So when you have when that drink chart is on, the reason I show that is because of the drink chart, how to interpret it. What if somebody made a screwdriver because alcoholics like the lady that drink out of the plastic bottle? What if somebody put that much orange juice and this much vodka?
You're gonna get there.
You're gonna throw off your drink scale. That's if you order at the bar and people are measuring the shots. So you know, if people are trying to, you know, I'm trying to really, and if you get into treating an alcoholic, I'm going to try to reduce. Is that an acceptable treatment goal that somebody says, yeah, I've got a drinking problem. You know, I'm not going to drink whiskey anymore. I'm just going to cut back to beer. Would that be an acceptable treatment goal?
No, not really, because eventually they're gonna just create the same problem in the brain as long as they contain alcohol.
They do contain alcohol. What do you think?
So
What do you
I
think?
won't-
What do you think, Lauren?
Are they gonna drink less beer when I do it, or are they gonna drink?
Oh, good question. It's a good question.
I mean, because they could take up beer, but what if they just end up doing more beer than they? You know what I mean? I mean, they
Okay.
can still get there eventually, but I don't know. I don't know. I've never had to set a treatment for somebody and be like, well, I guess you could come back to beer. I guess. I don't know.
If we're looking at outcome measures, the traditional AA principle towards this is that's a bad goal. That doesn't work. We need abstinence. We need 100% abstinence. In reality, if you're working with somebody and you're using evidence-based practices, a reduction in use is an acceptable goal. So somebody argue for that being an acceptable goal.
Well, I think a zero.
Well-
Okay. Go ahead, Sonia.
Oh,
No, we're probably going to say the same thing, but I was just thinking that if someone is drinking or consuming alcohol, like, or consuming vodka, and then they say, okay, well, I'm going to drink something with less alcohol content in it, and I'm going to drink it less, they're kind of like weaning themselves off, I guess. So it's like, I don't know. That's not really what I can't remember where I was going
That's
with
okay.
that, but
No.
it's kind of like, you know, it's the higher the concentration, if they start kind of drinking alcohol that has less of a concentrated amount, or I guess it's diluted down, it's to me, kind of like weaning themselves off. So essentially, less and less alcohol is going into their system until hopefully eventually they just stop drinking altogether.
Who here has heard of the acronym SMART for goals? Anybody? Raise your hand if you've heard of that. Okay, so I've got Sonia. Sonia, enlighten us if you remember it.
Okay, I think the S means specific.
Yes. Okay, what else?
And,
This will be on.
and I believe that, okay, I believe that the M was measurable.
Okay,
The A is attainable.
yes.
The R I think is realistic.
Yes.
I can't remember.
That's it. You got it. I'm impressed.
Okay.
You ready for your NCU? You just started.
Yeah, well, I think I learned this in some leadership training classes
Oh, okay.
that I took,
What?
but I think the T it has something to do with like the time, like the,
Absolutely.
is it timely?
Time oriented.
Yeah.
So when you write goals for the Oklahoma Medicaid system, when you write goals for your clients, when you make goals with your clients, you want them to be specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time oriented. So if you have someone that is going for a reduction in use, and they say, you know, I've been drinking a 6-pack a week, I'm going to go down to, or 6-pack on every night, I'm going to cut that down to a 6-pack on the weekend. As a therapist, I'm okay because it came from them. As therapists, I would want them to say, I'm done, I've stopped. But that may not be realistic for that person. They may live with a person that consumes alcohol and they don't have a choice to be there or not. That's the only place they have to stay in the world. They may be so addicted to painkillers or so addicted to, and I know I'm jumping substances here from alcohol, but they may be addicted to, an anxiolytic that causes, it can cause some tremors and even some seizures if a person comes off of them relatively quickly. I'm okay if somebody is looking to reduce your use, because what we're wanting to as therapists to pull on, how did that work out for you? What's better for your life? And then hopefully you keep gaining traction with that. So that would be acceptable. If you're in an AA model, that's unacceptable. So look at the percentages, all have equal amounts. So I've just given away the next part of the question. What happens when alcohol stays in your body? You alluded to this nice in your very opening comment about alcohol. It gets broken down into different substances by what?
Enzymes.
Yes.
Is it enzymes?
Yes, it is enzymes. Enzymes in your liver.
Yeah.
If you go back and you look at this this alcohol chart right here, and you compare men versus women, would these alcohol concentrations stay the same with the weight being equal?
No.
Wow, y'all
The
are
body mass is
amazing.
gonna affect it.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said the body mass is gonna affect it.
Body mass will affect it, but let's say we have a 140-pound male and a 140-pound female. Are these going to be the same percentages for that 140-pound individual, whether they're male or female?
No.
Why? What's the reasoning?
Does it have something to do with the stomach?
Wow, this group is amazing. Nobody knows that. Absolutely.
I can't exactly remember, but I've learned that, and I'm sorry, I can't remember it, but I do remember something along these lines.
women, and I don't mean less than, I mean, women.
I think it's the absorption.
Yes, you're right. Men have enzymes that women don't have in the stomach. Whether that's an evolutionary thing, whether men consumed alcohol over thousands of years and women traditionally did not. However it is, biologically, males have extra enzymes that break down alcohol before it even gets to the small intestine. So your stomach question was, your answer was right on point. And so women, if you drink alcohol, it's going to be absorbed, and most of it's going to be absorbed into your system more rapidly and also at a higher degree than it will be for males. So yes, if you do a Google search and you look at blood alcohol concentration, men versus women, women will be, regardless of the same body mass, are going to have a higher blood alcohol concentration. So don't feel bad if you're not keeping up with the guys on your drink, because, and I'm not saying that people do, because you can't. You just can't biologically. And so that's a liver after 5 years of alcohol use. This was for kids. I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. Okay, so here's how your body gets rid of alcohol at about a rate of 0.5 ounces per hour. And so if a person consumes many ounces of alcohol, basically the equivalent of about 1 drink per hour, if a person consumes a lot of alcohol, it takes a while. You know, a person can leave and driving the next morning and still have a blood alcohol level that's over the legal limit because their body's still metabolizing. But if you look at alcohol versus other substances, alcohol is one of the quickest substances that our body metabolizes. However, we have chemicals that are detectable up to 80 hours. So now they have an 80-hour UA, urinalysis, that they can catch people within about 3 days or so. If they've drank, they'll catch them, even though a breathalyzer won't. Even though that BAC is 0, they'll still tell. So how much is too much? Roughly 0.8 will give a person the buzz. You'll see some impairment at 0.4, 0.5. 0.10, and this is, these are, I'm not going to test on this. This is just basically for folks' knowledge. Normal thoughts are not going to be there at 0.1. Judgment's very significantly going to be affected at 0.15. People get to feel like Superman, they can do anything. Really not looking at consequences, foreseeable consequences. Well, I think I'll take that person home tonight and I'm going to have a one-night stand. Well, that's probably not a good idea because you don't know that person. But it seemed like a good idea at the time. 0.25, people start to lose consciousness. 0.35 is really poisoning, and 0.5 is the lethal dose for 50% of the population. That will be tested, the LD50. That's an important term to know. So then we
the
go.
LD50?
Yeah, I know, it'll go. We'll talk about more on this next slide.
Okay.
It's basically, you have to, when you're dealing with substances, you're dealing with two things here about its potency. You're looking at ED50 and LD50. So if you're looking at alcohol, and as far as its effects inside the human body, it's a relatively potent substance. It's not taking a whole lot of this. Given our whole body mass, it's not taking a whole lot to really have an effect because we went over the effects of it in the brain, what it does. The ED50 stands for effective dose for 50% of the population. LD50 stands for lethal dose. And so that's how, regardless of what substance we're talking about, be it Valium, Xanax, Oxycontin, Lortabs, LSD, THC, you can get into ED50 versus LD50. What happens with alcohol? What happens to effective dose with a tolerance? If a person has a tolerance to alcohol, it took me 3 beers to get a buzz, last weekend, now it's taking me 5.
Their effective dose is gonna go, I guess, up.
Yes, their effective dose is going to increase. However, I make an argument that their lethal dose is going to stay the same. So effective dose goes up with tolerance. Median effective dose, median lethal dose. It's just here on the slides. So, you know, I could make an argument somebody's getting closer. This is especially not so much applicable with alcohol, but it's more applicable with substances like, well, like your painkillers, like your opiates. You know, somebody's got a really high tolerance on painkillers, they have a realistic chance of ODing, of dying from them. Okay, questions before we might take a little break here, since we've been going an hour. All right, well, let's take a little break, and the other substances, I like to go into some detail into alcohol because it is so pervasive in our society, and y'all had a pretty good understanding of it, but again, that's all this education piece is treatment protocol for folks. You know, pieces of it, you know, you'll want to pick it out what's appropriate for your client based upon how they present. But generally speaking, when you're working with someone, you want them to have accurate knowledge and the same working knowledge that you have before you really start creating change. So let's take probably 10 minutes and then we'll come back.